So you might want to sing in public, but every time you try, maybe the nerves take over. Shaky hands, racing heartbeats, maybe even have a dry mouth or a dry throat. It really does feel impossible sometimes. And in this episode, I'll show you a better way to sing in public without the nerves so that you can overcome any stage fright that you might feel and actually enjoy performing. Because why else would we be doing that? Hi, my name is Maggie. I'm the founder of the Singing Insiders, in which I help passionate singers just like yourself become the best versions of themselves through singing. And in these episodes, you're going to get tips, ahas, insights, techniques, and tools to really help you up-level that singing skill of yours. So let's dive in today and look at a better way to sing with confidence in public. Now, before we do that, it is very important that we look at some very common mistake that beginner singers tend to make, because then once you might be aware of those mistakes, you can actually change them. The first common mistake is thinking, okay, I'm gonna get rid of the nerves. Many beginner singers, they think that nerves are something that is bad or wrong or not supposed to happen, when trained singers really know that it's not about getting rid of any nerves. It's about how can I manage them? How can I make sure that I know how to control them? And also accept that it's normal to feel that excitement before we are going to do something exciting, like, for example, singing on stage. So that's the first one. Not trying to get rid of the nerves, but knowing how to cope with them and control them and manage them. Second mistake many beginner singers tend to make is putting the focus on themselves instead of their audience, of their listener. How many times have you felt the stress when it was all about you? For example, I cannot forget my lyrics. My voice has to sound good. What if I trip over the microphone cable? It's all about me in those moments, when really, when we're singing and when we're sharing that gift of singing with others, it's not necessarily about you anymore. When you shift the focus from you to them, that's when performance anxiety tends to go down. With that, I mean, I'm giving a gift. My singing is a gift to them. My singing is an inspiration to them. I want to inspire them. I want to tell a story. I want to connect with them. When you focus on that, then it doesn't matter what your voice sounds like or whether you forget your lyrics, because the intention is on them. And you will notice that the more you put the intention on them, the easier it will be to actually not forget your lyrics or not trip on stage. So that is the second thing. Focusing on, how do I want my people to feel? How do I want to connect with them? Instead of all the things that could go wrong in your personal little bubble. Third mistake that many beginners tend to make, or this is a thinking mistake, and I know I used to do that too. I used to think the more I put myself out there, the more I do this thing that I find scary, the less nervous I will be. The more I sing on stage, the less nervous I will be, because I was thinking, well, the more experience I get, the better I will become, and thus the more confident I will be. Well, that did not work out for me, because every time I would go and sing on stage, that anxiety would just be reinforced. And then I would just prove to myself again and again and again of, you see, Maggie, this is not for you, because the nerves were even worse than last time. So oftentimes when you operate from that mindset of, if I do it more often, I'll get less nervous, you might notice that the more you do it without doing any vocal practice in between, obviously, the more you do it and the more you put yourself out there, the more insecure you might become, because nothing changes. And each time you do sing in public, you think something will change this time, and then it doesn't. And that is not very motivational to keep going. So instead of thinking the more I do it, the less nerves I'm going to get, it's really a matter of how can I practice this skill of singing in public, because it is a skill. It is something that you can learn. I also used to think, oh, I got so many nerves when singing in public. That must mean this is not for me. No, this is something I love. I just need to learn how to do this thing that I love. So it is a skill. And what could help here is finding the sweet spot between what I would call your comfort zone, but then boredom and panicking. So boredom would be something that is not a challenge at all. For example, singing in the shower when no one is home, that oftentimes is very comfortable for many of us. That might even be boring. There's nothing much that we can learn from that context. Panic for some of us might be singing on stage and then having our nervous system going overdrive. That's not a place where we can learn either. We need to find the sweet spot between the two. So not in boredom or not in a place of ultimate comfort and not in a place of ultimate panic. But what is the thing in between? That's the sweet spot in which you can develop the skill for, in this context, singing in public. And this will look differently for everyone. For some of us, that means posting something on social media. That might be scary enough to learn something from the experience, but not as scary to go into panic mode, for example. Maybe that's singing in front of your cats. Maybe that's singing in front of good friends of yours, like whatever it might be. Find that sweet spot. That's what trained singers do. Instead of putting themselves in a panicking situation, thinking the more I do it, the better I will get, that oftentimes doesn't tend to work. So now that we know that these are many common mistakes that many singers tend to make, let's look at what the process actually is and what we can do. So there's 3 steps that I want to share with you that will help you sing in public without feeling self-conscious and really being able to work through those nerves that you might feel when you're about to sing in public. Step number 1 is reframing. What do I mean by that? There's this beautiful example that I always use when I talk about this concept, and this is the example of Bruce Springsteen. So I don't know the exact quote. I'm probably not saying it exactly how he said it, but this is the gist of things. This is what it comes down to. He says, when I am feeling my stomach going up and down, and when I feel the jitters in my legs, and when I feel my sweaty palms, what he's doing there, he's describing symptoms. Before I continue with the so-called quote of Bruce Springsteen, what would you associate these symptoms with? Some of us might say anxiety, right? Sweaty palms, jitters in, like my knees trembling, I feel my heart racing, all those things. Some of us might associate that with I'm scared, I'm anxious, I'm nervous. Bruce Springsteen says, when I feel all of those things, that's when I know that I am ready and pumped to go on stage. In other words, instead of associating nervousness and anxiety with those symptoms, he decided to make it mean that he's excited. He's not nervous. He's not anxious. He's excited. So when he feels all those symptoms, all those things, the sweaty palms, the heart racing, the stomach all upset, he's thinking, okay, I'm excited. I'm ready to go on stage. So what he's been doing there is reframing the interpretation of a certain experience. So you get to do the same thing. When you experience a certain sensation in your body, instead of making it mean that you're anxious, what if we could make it mean that you're excited, or that you're feeling ready, or that you are having fun, whatever it might be, whatever helps you get over and release that anxiety. That's step number 1, reframing. Step number 2 is all about grounding. It's one thing to work on a brain level. Sometimes our brain sees a certain situation, like for example, singing on stage, as a threat. So it will alert our body and say, hey, you need to get ready to run away. So I'm going to pump some blood to your legs. Or you need to get ready to fight. So it's going to up the cortisol levels. Or you need to get ready to freeze. So fight, flight, freeze are common responses in stressful situations. This is our brain communicating to our body and preparing our body for that threat that it sees. Singing on stage, I think we can all agree, is not a deadly situation. It's not like a lion that is going to attack you. However, our brain sometimes sees it that way. So we need to communicate to our brain that this context of singing on stage is not a threat. And we cannot communicate that with our brain. What I mean is, my brain sees a threat. I cannot communicate with my brain to tell the other part of my brain that this is not a threat. Does that make sense? So what we need to do is find another way to communicate. So instead of having our brain communicate to our body, this time we're going to use our body to communicate with our brain and use our body to tell our brains that this situation is safe. And how we do that is by regulating the nervous system. If I can regulate my nervous system, that signals the brain that this situation, singing in public, is not a threat. And then it will stop pumping the blood going to my legs, or it will stop heightening the cortisol levels, all those things, right? So then the question is, okay, well, how do I regulate my nervous system? And there are different exercises that we can do. I'm going to give you one to get started, but again, there are many different tools. And some tools might work better for you than others. Some people like to do breath work, other people like to do meditations and visualizations, all those things. What we're going to do today is an awareness exercise, and it might fit you and your style. It might not, and that's okay. It's about finding the right tools and right techniques for you. So this is the exercise called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Basically, it all comes down to connecting those numbers with your senses. For example, what are 5 things that I can see right now? And then you just notice, you're creating awareness. Oh, I'm seeing the camera, I'm seeing my window, I'm seeing a tree outside of my window, I'm seeing my microphone, and I'm seeing my computer right here. Those are 5 things that I can see. Okay, what are 4 things that I can touch or that I can feel? Okay, I can feel the clothing on my body. I can feel my feet on the floor. I can feel my chair supporting me. So I'm just going and looking for what are 4 things that I can feel or touch. What are 3 things that I can hear? I can hear my fan going for my heater. I can hear some birds outside. What are things that you can hear? What are 2 things that you can smell right now? Maybe you're smelling coffee that you brewed for yourself this morning. Maybe you're smelling, nature. So nature, what is it that you smell? And what is one thing you can taste? Maybe it's a leftover of toothpaste from this morning. Maybe it's some chocolate that you ate this at lunch, for example. So by going through those senses, what you're basically doing is shifting your awareness from panic to I'm okay, regulating my nervous system by activating all of my senses. That's what we're doing. And by regulating our nervous system, we're communicating to the brain that this is a safe space and a safe context to be in. And that will then empower you to sing in public without all those nerves. Now, if this has been super valuable for you so far, then my invitation is to click the like and subscribe button here down below so that you can be updated on videos and episodes like this one coming out in the future. But we still have a third step to go, so let's keep moving. The third step in all of this is to be prepared. So what I mean by that is you're going to notice that the more prepared you are, the less nervous you will be. Then there's also a thing about being over-prepared. We can talk about that too. But let's recap what we've done so far. Step 1 was reframing how you see the situation, which happens on a brain level. Step 2 is the grounding technique and creating awareness. In other words, having your nervous system communicate to your brain, which happens on a bodily level. Step 3 happens on a vocal level. Obviously, if you're going to sing in public and you haven't practiced what you need to sing, well, that might cause a few problems. So step 3 is the vocal training, the vocal preparation. And this is all about muscle memory. So what is your muscle memory? It's like writing. When we were in elementary school, we all had to learn how to write. And now you're not consciously thinking about how to write the letter A or B or C anymore. It just happens automatically. That's your muscle memory. You've practiced something and now it happens automatically. The same thing happens when we're singing and training our voices. So in your vocal practice, you might be training your twang technique or your diaphragmatic breath or your rhythm or whatever it might be, your mixed voice. You're training all of that and you're making sure that within that particular song, this all gets absorbed into your muscle memory. Then when you're on stage, you can let go of those techniques. You don't have to think about your twang. You don't have to think about your mixed voice because it should be ingrained in your muscle memory so that you can trust that your voice will do what it needs to do because you've practiced it. That's the sweet spot of singing in public without feeling self-conscious. The vocal preparation, the mindful reframe, and then the body. Regulating the body. Those three together, that's where the magic happens. And that's where you really can step into this place of vocal freedom. So as you can see, training your voice requires a holistic approach. It's not just about technique. It's not just about training your voice in the right way. It's about combining that vocal technique with nervous system regulation and then authentic expression, being able to sing a song in your own unique and authentic way, being able to be creative. Now, this is a whole conversation that we can get into in even more detail. And I invite you to watch the video that I will link in the description here down below next, because that one will take that conversation further and give you the actual path to vocal freedom, to get you to that place of full expression so that you can sing in public without feeling self-conscious. So click the link in the description below to go to that episode next. I will also link to it here on the screen, but that really is the next place to go to because that's where we can keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for having been here today. I really appreciate you. If you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram or send me an email or whatever you need to do to reach out. And thank you for being here. We'll see each other next week or, well, normally, if you're following my instructions, in that next episode that I linked for you here down below. See you then. Bye.